Hey, it's us again at Probably Unlimited Games, back with week 5 of Hunting in the Queen's Forest. So, this week kinda sucked. I'm gonna be honest about that up front. Some weeks you feel like you're making real progress, and other weeks you spend 5 hours fighting with previously implemented systems that broke when you added something new, and wondering why you thought game development was the good idea in the first place. We've finally got a proper day-night cycle working. Time only passes when you're in the forest, just like it's supposed to, and day ends at sunset. It's actually pretty atmospheric. The shadows lengthen as you hunt, creating this natural urgency to finish before the onset of night. Steve and not Steve now automatically do their work when the day ends instead of waiting for you to manually trigger it, and they reset their food and wood consumption daily, like actual people. However, implementing this system was a headache. At first, we thought we'd pass the time of day back and forth between maps as they were loaded, but that honestly felt like overhead that we didn't really want to code. So, in order to maintain the proper time of day across all of the maps, we just made everything one map, because you don't have to find a solution if you just remove the problem entirely, right? So that basically broke all of our AI, because suddenly the deer were looking for an activation trigger that didn't live there anymore, so they'd just stand there, idly waiting for the master control program to go ahead and give them the signal to pretend like they were real deer, instead of just ones and zeros wrapped in a hollow mesh. Luckily, it didn't take too long to fix, so now everything runs correctly, more or less. We've still got some bugs to iron out, but that's ultimately future us's problem. On the bright side, it gave us some new ideas on the scope and scale of the game, and much to our chagrin, we may be moving to a pseudo-open-world type system, which was very much not our intention. This was supposed to be a small game with limited scope, but I guess we're just making another open-world game, just like Ubisoft. Next, we'll be implementing deer forts you have to storm and take over, converting them to friendly deer forts so that your deer can move in. We'll also have a different bow unlock for each deer fort, so as you progress you'll be able to take on more and more fortified deer locations, eventually culminating in a boss fight where you defeat the king of all deer and end famine forever. Just in case you didn't pick up on the sarcasm there, we're not doing that. However, the rest of the week really didn't go much better. We also tried to add in the advanced sight plugin, which sounds fancy but basically just gives us better control over how the deer spot you. In theory, it would give the AI a normal state and an alert state, so when the deer spots you, it'll act accordingly. At least in theory. In reality, we really couldn't add it to any of the agents in the game, which is just a fancy way of saying NPC. Apparently, some Unreal update or another broke it between when we bought it and now, and we were able to send a bug report on to the developer. He saw the issue too, which means we're not going crazy, and is currently working on a fix. He says it should be pretty quick. So this is one of those weeks where you feel like you worked for hours and really didn't accomplish very much at all. You know the work is necessary, understanding that some of these pre-made assets are not necessarily going to play nice with your own code, and it's going to be a little bit of work to implement them, especially when you're working with a team of basically 1.5 people. Luckily, we're starting to move into the more visual aspects of the game, so I'll be able to help more while Matthew focuses on the hardcore coding aspects. You know, the actual work, while I play with what amounts to digital Legos. It's great! I'll finally be able to use all that great artistic talent that my grade school teachers swore I had. Anyway, that's just part of the process. So yeah, week was full of bugs. They weren't even ours this time. And learning experiences and lots of junk. But we're still on track, so I guess that's all you can ask for, isn't it? Sometimes, game development is, for lack of a better term, glamorous. You implement a cool feature, everything works exactly as intended, and you feel like a genius. Other times, you spend the week fixing bugs, trying to figure out systems, and wading through the messes you've made for yourself. But even on the frustrating weeks, you do move forward. Some of our systems might be a mess right now, but understanding why it's broken is teaching us how these systems actually work. The advanced sight plugin is probably going to be fixed within a week, so we'll be able to integrate that soon. And our day-night cycle required some rebuilding of our core systems, but now Steve and not Steve can watch the sun rise and set as they attempt to assert their dominance. Next week, hopefully we'll be able to get the advanced sight plugin plugin fully integrated and getting the Deer AI to behave more naturally. And like I mentioned earlier, we're starting to do some of the more visual work, so we'll be able to build a town, start to make our houses look the way that we want them, start to have actual character models for Steve and not Steve, and we'll be able to do some of the animation work as well. Currently, you can't crouch when you're trying to fire the bow, which is technically realistic, but realism and fun rarely go together. As always, feedback is appreciated. Like and subscribe. See you next week, when hopefully we have figured out what the hell we're doing with all of these animations. Steve and not Steve are doing great, though. They've been laughing the whole time.